CNN did a segment whining about Trump's fans at a rally being mean to them.
CNN political analyst and New York Times White House reporter Julie Davis tweeted this. Depressing sight at Trump rally in Nashville. Adorable young boy, probably about my son's age, pointing iPhone at me and other reporters and snapping pics while screaming fake news. A child who will grow up believing a free and fair press is the enemy, a bad thing to be mocked and hated. And Jim Acosta is with me now. Wow, I mean, that's strong from Julie. But yeah. Tell me about your experience and how bad the heckling got.
Well, it got bad at one point towards the end of the rally. There was one man who was standing right in front of what we affectionately call the press cage, the press area inside these Trump rallies, and he was yelling scumbag and that sort of thing at us for a good 20 minutes or so. There is some audio of that. We can play that for you and then paint the picture a little bit more for you, Brooke.
Okay.
Nasty scumbags! You're disgusting! That's
Now, Brooke, it is a little surreal to hear that sort of stuff thrown at you while Tiny Dancer by Elton John is playing in the background. But, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm not too put off by it. But, Brooke, I want to show you another picture. You just showed it a few moments ago. This gentleman who came up to me during the rally wearing a "You Are Fake News" T-shirt. We shook hands. We had a nice conversation, about 5 or 10 minutes. That was really emblematic of the vast majority of people in the Trump crowd there who came up to us. I thought it was fascinating. So many people came up to us, and sometimes, yes, they would express their frustrations with the media and so on, and parrot things that they hear on Fox News and other, conspiracy-minded websites that I won't mention by name. But by and large, after they vented those frustrations, they would just be nice to you and want to talk to you about what's happening in the news. And what dawned on me, Brooke, is that I really wonder whether Trump supporters are going to run out of anger before the president himself does.
I have to admit, man, I always have mixed feelings about these segments. Because on the one hand, when Donald Trump, rails against the media, there is a real problem in that, because you're the president of the United States. You have a lot of power and authority. And when you talk about, for example, maybe delicensing news outlets that report what you call fake news, what in reality is usually just stuff that you that reflects on you negatively. Everything that's anti-Trump, Trump calls fake news. So when you talk about delicensing news outlets, when you threaten policy action on this front, when you, like Trump said, this is a huge threat to the First Amendment when he says stuff like maybe we should ban flag burning. When he throws around his weight to try to get the NFL to act against people like Kaepernick who are peacefully protesting. That's all not okay. That's really deeply authoritarian. That's his impulse, is very authoritarian. So on the one hand, I want to defend the media and say, listen, man, you're acting out of line, Trump, when you attack the media. But then on the other hand, what I don't like is when CNN and other major media outlets, they play the victim and they clutch their pearls as if like, oh, how dare you, good sir? But I also want to tell the media, no, you actually suck also. So, the fact that Trump attacks you, yes, as a matter of principle, I will defend you in that attack because he's the president and any crackdown from the government on the press is unacceptable. We need a free and open press. But at the same time, the fact that Trump attacks you does not mean that you are, by definition, doing a good job with what you do. In fact, it is quite the opposite. You're doing a shitty job. So that last part is interesting, and they go on to say this in the rest of the conversation. They're like, oh, it turns out when you actually talk to the people, they're kind of nice. Most of them are kind of nice. They'll talk to you just about what's happening in the news. And it's like, okay, you almost had that light bulb moment, guys. You almost had that light bulb moment. That maybe some of the hatred among the general population of the media is totally merited. Now, I'm not saying it's merited in all cases, because let's be honest, a lot of the people at that rally love to call CNN and MSNBC fake news, and they are, by the way, oftentimes. But then they would never say that about Fox News. In fact, they think Fox News are somehow straight shooters, which is just demonstrably untrue and hilariously dumb, okay? So I'm not saying every criticism of these guys is merited. But what I am saying is that a long, long time ago, there became a crisis of credibility in the mainstream media. Why? Just look at the record, man. The mainstream media in the U.S. endlessly pushed the Iraq War, for example. They called torture enhanced interrogation simply because the Bush administration wanted them to do so. And you go down the list, even when you talk about the papers of record, Washington Post, New York Times, they push for every military invasion that we've done in the modern era. Every one. And, you know, sometimes later on they would tepidly come out against it and say, I don't know about this, maybe it was a mistake. But they never keep it real. There's always, it's always a veneer, and it's always, propaganda on some level. So when you have a media that has objectively been terrible on so many fronts, and then people are really angry at that media, the idea that they want you to, like, clutch your pearls and then reflexively defend them, it's like, well, no, some of this is earned, son. Some of this is earned. I mean, we just covered a story about how you're covering the Roseanne firing way more than you're covering the fact that we just learned nearly 5,000 people died after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. That's even more than in Hurricane Katrina. The official government number is 64 people that died. They're lying about how many people died. What a giant scandal. They didn't do their fucking job after a hurricane. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. But they're covering Roseanne over that. So when people call you fake news, it's definitely, to an extent, merited. It's merited because you're not good at your job. How many times has CNN, they put breaking news banners up, and then they did, like, for example, one time, the Titanic sank 112 years ago today. That is literally the opposite of breaking news. You cannot put a breaking news banner for that. Another time they did breaking news, people are sledding down a hill by Capitol Hill, sleigh riding. That is not breaking news. You covered a missing Malaysian plane for like a fucking week and ignored other news in the process. You covered poop ship. Remember that? There was a cruise ship moving like 2 miles an hour because there was some problem with it. And the sewage, the bathroom stopped working or whatever, so it smelled like shit on the boat. They covered it like a breaking news story for fucking 2 days straight. That's why people call you fake news, because you suck. And even when they attack Trump, oftentimes they attack Trump in stupid ways. Like I just told you about how they showed that commercial of Trump cursing back during the campaign and acted like that was a scandal. No, the scandal's not that he's fucking cursing nonstop. The scandal is that he's saying I'm self-funded, he's not self-funded, and he's raising money from big donors. And then he goes on to do their bidding. The scandal is that he said we have to take out their families and kill civilians. So you're just objectively bad at your fucking job. And so then when you clutch your pearls, when people are angry at you, I don't have much sympathy for you. I really don't. Do your fucking job right, and then I'll give you a really strong defense. But they don't. So, I will permanently be waffling on this question. On the one hand, I will always defend the press as a matter of principle from Donald Trump's attacks, especially if it really comes down to pushing policies that are against the press and against the First Amendment. But on the other hand, no, I'm not going to act like everybody's anger at you is some sort of irrational feeling that's been, whipped up by Trump, because that's totally untrue. And that's what these guys want you to believe. Oh, it's all because Trump is just whipping up hatred against the press, and that's the only reason why they don't like us. No, they oftentimes don't like you because you suck at your job.